This podcast is brought to you by the Mice Pod. Mice Pod at micechat.com and micepod.com. Micechat.com.
Greetings, Universal Orlando fans. It's time for the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast with your hosts, Lee, Tracy, and Darren.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 63 of the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast, brought to you in association with Mice Chat and sponsored by Be Our Guest Destinations. I'm Darren, and we're running a little bit late here, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get Lee and Tracy on the line here. One moment.
Aren't available at the moment as we're in Orlando, frantically buffing up Barney's Echo Tunnel in time for tomorrow's meet. Leave a message.
Oh my gosh, how could I have forgotten? It's the podcast meetup time. I gotta hurry up and get this show recorded and get over there. So if you're listening to this on the day of release and you're attending the meet, we'll see you tomorrow. This is what we got coming up for you today. First of all, this is a big one. We were really nervous to record this, but super excited and very thankful for Universal for putting this together for us. We interviewed the creative director for Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood, John Murdy. If you do not know that name, go ahead and look him up. He's an icon. It's pretty amazing. So let's go ahead and listen to that.
So first of all, John, thanks very much for coming on the show and talking to us.
Oh, my pleasure.
So basically what we wanted to talk to you tonight was your history with Halloween Horror Nights creative at Universal. So, we would start off, for those who don't know who you are, and shame on them, can you tell us about your background and how you ended up working for Universal, just for Universal Hollywood Creative to start off with?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Southern California, in the Los Angeles area, and started coming to Universal Studios at a very early age, I think probably early 1970s. And I'm a kid who grew up on the classic Universal horror movies, Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy, The Wolfman, and the story in my family always is that my mother foolishly showed me Frankenstein when I was 4 years old, and from that point on I was just hooked on the Universal classic monster characters and started kind of a lifelong obsession with those films and those characters. And then when I realized you could actually, meet them at Universal Studios Hollywood every year when it was my birthday or whatever, I'd always, bug my parents, can we go to Universal? And then when I got out of school, out of college and everything, I started here as a tour guide in 1989. And Universal has always been a company that kind of promotes from within, and I had an opportunity after being a tour guide for a couple of years to work as what I would call a gopher, or might also be referred to as a production assistant on some of the early attractions here when we were doing one of the first big expansions of the park, and that was back when we were building the lower lot or studio center part of the park, when we built the escalator and the E.T. ride and all of that. And I got hired to be a production assistant on the old special effects show, which was called The World of Cinemagic. And that's where we had the Alfred Hitchcock stage and Back to the Future stage and the Harry and the Henderson sound effects show. So that was my entree into Universal Creative, although it wasn't called Universal Creative at the time. It was called Universal Planning and Development. And I worked there for that duration of that project, but back then it wasn't like they kept a large staff. So after that project was completed, I actually left the company for 5 years and worked outside for a company called Kevin Biles Design that did a lot of theme park design work. And after working there for 5 years, I came back in the mid-'90s to work for Universal Creative, and I spent the vast majority of my career there.
Wow. I think I always find it quite good that people start off their careers like working just as a general sort of, a team member, as it were, and then work their way up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've always had a really good program, particularly with our tour guides. Development and, a lot of tour guides to start off with are, people who want to go into the film industry. So they want to be actors, or they want to be writers, or they want to be directors. And when I was a tour guide way back in the 80s, you could pretty much on your day off, you could call up the tour guide office and say, hey, it's my day off. Is there a production I could go visit? And they would hook you up with movies or TV shows filming on the lot. So I spent the vast majority of my time when I was a tour guide on the set of the Back to the Future movies, because we were filming the second and the third film at that time, which is ironic now because I just finished a project where we restored the hero car DeLorean from the original Back to the Future.
Wow.
And then ended up working with all the same people that, I was on the set of their movie when I was, in my 20s. So, and I grew up in the hometown that I grew up in, Whittier, is where they filmed the original Back to the Future. So I kind of hung around the set because I worked at the mall where Back to the Future was filmed, that kind of big opening sequence with the Libyan terrorists and the DeLorean. I watched them film that when I was in high school. So it's funny how everything kind of comes full circle in your career.
It certainly
Very
seems
cool.
to,
I mean,
doesn't
Darren,
it?
you're a huge Back to the Future fan, aren't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I saw the pictures of the restoration. It's just amazing. You guys did a great job on that.
Yeah, it's really cool, especially with that film, because, like I said, I mean, I back in high school when I was working at what's called the Pointing Hills Mall, it's still there today. But that was the Twin Pines or the Lone Pine Mall, depending on which time dimension of Back to the Future you're in. But when I was first working there, we didn't even know what the movie was. We just knew that it was being produced by Steven Spielberg. And that, I don't want to create the impression that it's, these days you could just walk onto a movie set, because it doesn't really happen like that anymore.
Sure.
But back then, I just kind of was this kid hanging around in the background, and they were cool, and they let me do that. And I don't even know if the film had a title, because Back to the Future went through a lot of different name changes. The executives in charge of production at the time when Back to the Future was being made hated the name Back to the Future. It's kind of a famous story. They kept insisting that the name had to be changed, that it would never be a hit, and the name put forth that they suggested was Spaceman from Pluto.
Okay.
Actually, I have heard that
before. It's a reference to
before.
that scene where Michael J. Fox is in the barn and the farmer encounters him.
Yeah.
Peabody's, I think it's called Peabody's Farm.
Yes.
And I don't know why that was it. I mean, I think the story is that it came to a memo that was sent to Zemeckis and Gale on Back to the Future, and they took it to Spielberg going, oh my, what do we do with this? And Steven decided to play it as a joke with this particular, executive and say, oh, that's so funny. What a great sense of humor. And I guess he dropped it after that. There was also a big controversy with Back to the Future about Einstein, too, because, I think in the original script, if I remember, it was a chimpanzee. And somebody at Universal wrote a memo that was telling them, in the history of movies, no movie with a chimpanzee has ever, been a box office hit, which is strange because we're the studio who made Bedtime for Bonzo. So I don't know what they were thinking, but that's why it was changed to a dog.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Moving on. In 2004, you were called to help revitalise Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Hollywood. What did you think needed to be done to turn the event into what it is now?
Yeah, at that point, I had spent my career here in Hollywood, but they had relocated Universal Creative to Orlando, Florida, so I had moved with everybody to Orlando, but the project I was working on at the time was the Mummy attraction, Revenge of the Mummy, here in Hollywood. So I just kept flying back and forth to Hollywood constantly. And the general manager of the park here in Hollywood, a gentleman named Michael Taylor, had called me up, and he had been around for the previous iterations of Halloween Horror Nights, and they had stopped doing it for a number of years. And he had called me up and to kind of ascertain if I would be interested in moving back to L.A. and specifically, kind of spearheading getting that event brought back to the park here in Hollywood. At that time, it's even more true today. LA is probably the most competitive market in the world for this kind of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different entertainment opportunities, and every year there's more. So what I really thought about how to make it unique was, and differentiate it from other things that people could go to, was to tie it to the movies. Ever since the beginning of this particular theme park, it's always been a place where you get to come and experience the movies, whether it's going behind the scenes of the movies on the studio tour, or our old slogan, Ride the Movies. And the one thing I really didn't see in the haunt industry was anybody really trying to do famous horror movies, movie quality, to make people feel like they were living their favorite horror movies. I didn't see anybody really doing that. So that was kind of my big idea of what we could do here with Halloween Horror Nights, and that certainly has, over the years, has paid dividends.
Definitely.
Certainly.
I was going to say, it's certainly one of our favourite memories.
Only
Doing
we've
the one
only
in
ever done it
Orlando.
once in Orlando, but
Yeah, I think, well, it's so funny the way the Halloween industry has grown. When I was a kid, besides, I started building haunted houses when I was 10 years old.
Cool.
But I did them in my parents', originally my parents' garage, but then it expanded into my parents' house and into our backyard, and it was a different era. I mean, parents would let their kids, walk through some stranger's house.
Yeah.
And it was, the first one was really strange. It was themed on Star Wars. It had literally just come out. It was it was 1977, and I was 10 years old, and you couldn't really, when Star Wars came out, nobody really thought it was going to be a hit before the movie came out. And they were very behind the eight ball on consumer products. And it's kind of the movie that defined that whole industry, that you see today. When every movie comes out, there's toys and there's this and there's that. But you couldn't buy Star Wars costumes. You couldn't even get the action figures. I remember you had to, fill out a form and send away from, and they sent you like an IOU. I still actually have that somewhere in my house.
Wow.
But so we handmade all our costumes and lightsabers and the whole deal. It was really, really geeky. But we did this in '77, and then I did it for like 4 years. Until my dad wisely looked one year out the living room window and saw like hundreds of people lined up in the street waiting to go through this thing, and realized like this is a disaster. My son's running around dressed like Norman Bates with a real butcher knife. I think it finally, like, the light bulb went off that this probably wasn't going to be kosher to keep doing this. So I He eventually just said, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then the very next year, there was a local haunt that was being done for charity, and the people that they brought in to do it had completely fallen down and, were flaking on them. And they heard that there was this kid and, who did this kind of famous haunted house in our hometown. And so I ended up designing it and producing it for them when I was, I think, 14 years old.
Wow.
But, the only other thing that was out when I was a kid were what was called the Campus Life haunted houses. And I don't know if there was just a West Coast thing, but it was a professional haunted house. And I have, like, these amazing memories of going through these things when I was a teenager. And but the industry's grown so much since then. Now Halloween is second only to, I believe, Christmas in terms of retail sales, in terms of the amount of money people spend on it every year.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's just more and more and more and more offerings every single year, and the industry just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But that idea of doing, trying to do movies, trying to do movie quality, and actually working with the studios and the filmmakers, and actually going through the process and licensing this stuff was something I just didn't see anybody really doing, and that was our niche, I think.
Oh, very cool. Now, in your time working on Halloween Horror Nights, which has been your favorite year and your favorite house? The one that makes you think that's the one I want to be remembered for.
It's funny. People ask me that question all the time, and the answer is I really don't specifically have a favorite year or a favorite house. The way we treat it, and it has a lot to do with the history of the event here in Hollywood. I mean, it actually started here in Hollywood. It started way back in the '80s.
Right.
And then it kind of went away, and then it came back, and then it went away, and then it came. It kind of had this erratic history here in Hollywood. So when I first got to bring it back, and I should mention that with Halloween Horror Nights, it's myself and it's a gentleman named Chris Williams, who is the art director, production designer of the event, and Chris and I do everything hand in glove on Horror Nights, from the initial concept through training every single actor. And
Oh, wow.
he's always been my partner with Horror Nights. And when we started out in 2006, it was a real baby step. They didn't really let me do. I think I did one original house. We kind of revamped our House of Horrors attraction here, but it was mostly shows and the Terror Tram experience. But it wasn't the movie branded thing at the time, because it was really the test balloon to see if we could make this thing work, both from a guest satisfaction standpoint and as a business. And once we knew that we could, that first year we did it, I think we did like 7 nights or something. It wasn't, maybe 10 at the most. But once it actually got off the ground and we got to do it 2007, and that's when we did Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface. We did the branded horror thing, and the event just took off, and every single year has been more successful than the year previously, consistently year over year over year. We never forgot where we started, and so every single year when I address the entire cast, we actually have to do it over 2 nights now because they've gotten so big.
Sure, yeah.
But we always start off by saying who was with us last year, and then there's always a large number of characters who return year after year. I kind of get down on my knees and do the thank you. Without you guys, this thing wouldn't be a success. Now everybody forget what we did because we're starting over. We're back in 2006, and I try to always, with everything we do with Horror Nights, I try to never rest on our laurels or think, oh, we got this. We always approach it with that kind of hunger for just pushing it to be better and better and better. So, and we all treat them equally. They're all, Chris and I always say they're all our demented little children. We create them. But there's ones, while I don't have a single favorite, I mean, certainly the Alice Cooper houses for me personally are special because that was my childhood hero. That's
Right.
the guy I wrote letters to when I was a kid, and I never in a million years, thought I would one day be working with him. So that just, on a personal level was really, really bizarre. And I think also getting to do Halloween, the original John Carpenter film, was very special.
Oh, cool.
Because, I think that's the first R-rated movie I ever snuck into. And, to actually get to do that movie kind of in a linear fashion was really special. But I don't, every year, it doesn't matter how good it is or how much the guests like it or how many people come to it. You always have to top yourself. So as soon as it's over, it's kind of like it's done and we move on. Literally, sometimes as soon as the event's over, and sometimes during the event, we're already working on the next year as far as trying to figure out who we want to work with.
Right.
Cool. Well, that actually leads on to my next question. Obviously in your role as creative director on a day-to-day basis, what sort of stuff do you get up to? Because like you said, I know over in Orlando, generally they're starting to work on the next year's Halloween Horror Nights while the current one's still going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true from a relationship standpoint, and because we do so much branded horror that involves movies and licensing deals. Generally during the event, once the event's open and everything's running, I pretty much am just like a big cheerleader. I'm just going around the event. I'm there every single night of the event, and I've never missed a night. But I'm mostly there to support the cast and the crew and everybody and the team members. But the other function I play during that period of time is to escort people around and bring, talk to different filmmakers or movie studios or musicians or whoever, we might be working with. And we always feel it's best for them to see it in the flesh. It is so much easier, too. Whenever I go into a pitch, the first thing I always ask is, have you ever been to the event? And luckily, most of the time the answer is yes. But if the person's been to the event and seen it, it's the easiest pitch in the world because they already want to be part of it.
Yeah.
So, the example I always use is Hostel when we worked with Eli. I met Eli Roth the year before at the Igor Awards, and he kind of ran up to me at one point after the awards were over, and he was like, "Hey, how come you've never done one of my movies?" And I was like, "I've never met you. Nice to meet you." And we started talking that night, and the same thing will be true this year, and you'll see later. There's people that I, hooked up with last year during the event that I'm working with this year. So it's a year-round process, and it never ends. But as the creative director, and I'm also the producer too, I do both. I'm left brain, right brain. So, it's pretty much wearing like a lot of hats.
Right.
And that's true of everybody on this team. I think the thing that people might have an impression that there's just all these people that work on this event, and it's really, when you talk about people in-house that work, year round for Universal Studios Hollywood on the entertainment side, it's less than 10,
Right.
and really it's like 4 people who've been doing this since the beginning, and it's myself, Chris Williams, the art director, production designer, Mike Ganame, who's our tech director, and Joel Smith, who's our project manager, the guy who has to mind the budget.
Yeah.
And the 4 of us have been doing it since day one. But then over the years, we've added more people. But Chris and I design everything together. And then we work with a lot of different freelancers and vendors. And the vendors we tend to work with are people we've worked with since the beginning.
Right.
Our makeup people is the same people we've worked with since 2006. Same for audio, same for lighting, same for scenic. But all of us we're all theater rats. We all come from a theatrical background in terms of our education. We're all people that majored in some way, shape, or form in theater. And in theater, when you're putting on a play, if you're not acting in it, you might be working backstage. And the same thing is very true of this production. And that's where Chris and I's relationship, our creative relationship, works so well. Is Chris is, while he was certainly has his background in theater, he was more of an artist, and I was more of originally an actor, but also a writer. So when it comes to the conceiving things, Chris and I will do them together, the original concept for whatever maze we're going to be doing. But then I'll go off and I'll write the treatment, and he'll start working on the ground plan. And then throughout the course of the event, I'll put on the audio hat. I always do all the audio because all these mazes are multi-channel audio, and it's really, really complicated. These things are like rides. They're being run by these show control systems. So I'm always the one in the studio putting all the audio together for all the different mazes, and it's like doing 6 movies at once. It's crazy.
Oh.
Chris is probably better at lighting than I am, but we'll kind of do that together, but he's more knowledgeable, so I'll get into the lighting side of it. He's certainly more knowledgeable on scenic and props, so he tends to manage that, and I just check in. If we do an original film shoot, I'm pretty much going to write it and direct it, definitely produce it. So, when you're a producer too, you're dealing with all the deals. I negotiate every deal. Dealing with our partners, making sure everything's getting approved and routed through them, and you just every day you do multiple different things in multiple different disciplines. So it's not like I sit back and write it and I just go, here you go, guys, now have fun and produce it. We all are people who have a lot of different skills in a lot of different areas, and none of us do just one thing.
Right.
Definitely. I can never complain at work about having too much work to do anymore now.
No, and that's the side of it too, that I think production in general, doesn't matter whether it's Halloween or whatever you're doing. Production's a really tough business. It's long hours. It's not uncommon for us to do, when we get down towards the end, we'll pull 100-hour weeks easy.
Whoa.
We'll do endless days in a row without a day off. We'll work at home. We'll work at, you have to manage all that stuff. But, usually there's always a point in the project where Chris and I are out in the park at some ungodly hour of, I can't even say the night, it's usually in the morning.
Wow.
And we're doing lighting, and lighting programming takes the longest. It's just, I've, over the years, working with my audio team, I've gotten really efficient at audio because I can build it in the studio ahead of time, and then when I'm in the field, I've made it really simple so we could just walk around and go, all right, make that louder, make that softer, route that to this speaker or whatever, but it's never like creative changes or things like that. I'm always working that out in the studio. Can't really do that with lighting, You have to have the set in front of you.
Yeah.
But particularly on the 3D mazes, there's been many, many times where Chris and I were out there, and they take endless tweaking. And, one of us hits the wall at some point, and we work like a tag team. One night, one of us is fried, and they'll turn to the other and say, I got it, go home and sleep for a couple hours or whatever, and I'll see you in the morning. And, or if and then the next night, I crash, or he, it just, you have to have an incredible amount of physical and mental endurance.
It sounds like it.
It's an insane amount of work. It really is like making 6 movies at once.
Wow. I'm exhausted thinking about it.
Yeah,
I'm exhausted
definitely.
thinking about where I'm going to be in
Yeah.
a few more weeks. I mean,
Well, we
and
all
it's
definitely
year round.
appreciate it.
The right. It usually starts where it's all on. Once we get the initial concept, then it's all on me to write it, and that's these treatments they can be anywhere from 50 to almost 100 pages long because they're incredibly detailed, and there's a reason for that. It's so the team can go. This is everything we're doing. It's all in this document. Every prop, every lighting, idea, every audio cue. It's all identified up front. And then after I've gone through that long writing process, then it's all on Chris to draw. And everything's drawn by hand too. It's not like there's some computer somewhere doing this. The drawing package can be a huge amount of information because every single wall and every single maze has to be elevated and drawn up so that the scenic company knows what to build. So and then we just work like I said really close together and our skills complement each other.
So if budget wasn't a problem and neither was any license or resource, what would be your ultimate maze?
It's funny because it's something I always say is even the most expensive Hollywood movies have a budget. I think sometimes people will be like, oh, if you had an unlimited budget, I'm amazed at what I have. It's amazing that we spend as much money as we do on these attractions because they're not cheap. They're incredibly expensive.
I'm sure.
I can imagine.
But it's not even so much like if budget wasn't a limit, because we have 3 specific criteria for anything we consider, and it's never changed. They've always been the same. We bend them sometimes. But right at the beginning, Chris and I established these are the 3 things we're looking for in any movie, TV show, video game, music artist, whatever it is, that we believe is going to make a great maze. And it goes beyond just money or anything like that. It's really, they have to meet these criteria. And the first one is what we call awareness. And that just means, do our guests know what it is? And we feel very strongly about that because there's a very practical reason for that. It's really easy to market. If you know what it is and you want to see it, you're going to come.
Yeah.
And so, and sometimes, horror, there's so many different levels now to horror, so many different genres, but if you go too niche, a maze is not a movie. You can't tell the same kind of story in a maze that you can tell in a movie. I'm not a big fan of elaborate backstories and things like that because I think in reality, the vast majority of people coming to this attraction, that'll just fly right over their head.
Yeah.
So you have whatever you're trying to tell, not that you can't tell a story in a maze, but it has to be incredibly simple, and it has to be instantly gettable.
Yeah.
And so that's what one of the main filters we look at for anything we're going to do. The second is environments, where the work that Chris does, the sets, and props and everything that goes along with that are so incredibly detailed and movie quality that we want to make sure that we believe that's one of our big strengths and differentiates us from a lot of other things out there. And we want to make sure that the movie has a lot of great environments, great iconic environments, and hopefully some variety to them. And the example I always use of that is Saw. Like if Saw ended as a franchise with the first film, we would never have done it because it takes place in a bathroom and that's it.
Yeah.
But as they did all these other movies, then it opened it up to all these other great environments. And that was always the strength of things like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or some of these movies that have had a lot of movies. You could really create, it's almost like making a greatest hits album.
Yeah.
You could just go, what's my favorite thing in these 10 movies, So we always look for things with great environments. And then you have to also look at, can the characters we're doing, first of all, are they, is the threat or the villain or the antagonist something that you can translate to a live actor? And when we're talking about what our live actors do in an attraction, we always treat it as a new scene every 10 seconds because that's really about the length of time it takes for people to walk through a particular room. And whatever you're staging in there, it has to be on that kind of repeatability and cycle. That's what we always try to ingrain our performers into getting into their heads because it's not like doing a play or a movie or anything else. It can be very repetitive. But that also means you really have to consider what that actor's doing and can they do it, what they're wearing. Like Silent Hill's a great example last year when we were originally looking to do that. One of our biggest concerns was Pyramid Head. It's like, geez, this guy's 8 feet tall and he's got this enormous metal helmet on his head that, it doesn't look like any actor could possibly wear. But luckily, working again with our makeup company, in particular an artist named Jen Rose, who came up with that way of doing that particular effect, and making it lightweight, and these actors are on stilts. It's just this, you have to really consider, can we pull this off with a live actor, or if it's a creature effect or something, is it something we can pull off? But as far as like my wish list, I've always wanted to do The Exorcist. I'll always do The Exorcist.
Yeah.
It's the movie that scares me the most. Always has. I'm terrified to do it. But it's also one of the most problematic movies to translate into something like this, because going back to like Saw, a lot of it takes place in the little girl's bedroom.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out a way to do it. But that's always been one of the ones I've always wanted to do. And hopefully we'll get the chance one day.
You could start off with it in like Israel, couldn't you, with the tombs bit at the beginning?
Oh yeah. There's ways to extend those movies, and you have to. Again, what works in a movie might not work in a live attraction.
Yeah.
I always talk about The Shining too, and say Shining is one of my favorite horror movies.
Same here.
But it'd be incredibly difficult to do as a haunted attraction. First of all, the Overlook Hotel is so massive that even, inevitably, it doesn't matter how big your budget is, you're never going to be able to build something of that scale, just real estate-wise.
Yeah.
And then you have the problem of, I need a whole lot of Jack Nicholson. There is only one Jack Nicholson, and you really can't. And of course, an actor controls their likeness. It doesn't matter if you have the rights to a movie. If the actor is his face, actors control that. The movie doesn't. So, you can't do The Shining without that character, so it kind of makes it impossible.
Yeah.
Unless somebody someday decides to do it and prove me wrong. But
it's always one.
But I think there are certain franchises that, as much as I love them, they just wouldn't make a good haunted attraction, or it would be impossible.
Yeah. It's.
I always talk about Paranormal Activity too, because it's a huge, popular horror franchise, and a lot of times people will ask us why we don't do it, and I'm like, it wouldn't work as a haunted attraction. The subtle type of things like a door opening and closing, well, that can be incredibly terrifying on film.
Yeah.
When you've got thousands of people tromping through a maze, that's not gonna do it.
Definitely.
No.
Well, I know you're a very busy man, John, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Sure.
Absolutely
It really
fascinating.
has.
So we will let you go.
Okay.
We'll say good luck for Halloween Horror Nights this year.
Wish we could be
Thank
there.
you. And the thing I always say too is one of the things here that is always top of mind for us is we're always so thankful for the fans that support the event on both coasts, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And they're so loyal, and they're so passionate about the event, and they push us to do better and better work. And we're always I'm eternally grateful to the fans of Halloween Horror Nights for supporting us over the years, because they have lots of different options, and they are, like I said, they're so loyal and they're so passionate about the event that it makes us want to top ourselves every single year.
Well, we don't have anything like that in the UK. So if you ever fancy a change,
I
come
know.
on over here.
I've spent a lot of time in the UK, and but I think you will eventually, because Halloween it just seems to grow and grow and
I
grow.
love it.
It is. It's just starting to take off a little bit more over here. Thorpe Park, part of the Merlin Group, they've just started doing Halloween events, and Alton Towers have been doing it for a while. And there's a few other ones, little ones sort of scattered around that are starting to take off a bit, but it's nowhere near as big as it is in the US.
No, and we never did it in the old days in our park in Japan, and now that's a big event, and we're doing it in Singapore now, and it is growing all over the world.
Yeah, well, we're nurturing the next generation. As soon as our kids are old enough, we're going to be there as a family.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
So, again, thanks very much for joining us, John. It's been a pleasure.
Really enjoyed it.
My pleasure.
And hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks, John.
Talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
In a world where the skies are clouded with ADRs, park ticket, and hotel bookings, one hero stands like a beacon of light in the darkness. Heather at BR Guest Destinations. She can book all of your Universal Orlando vacation needs, and her service is free to you. And if you're staying on Disney property for some reason, She can also book Universal tickets that include transportation. How awesome is that? She's also an authorized Disney vacation planner, as well as being able to book all cruise lines. So if you're planning on battling Megatron alongside Optimus Prime at the new Transformers ride, or having a Duff Brew in the new Springfield area, or planning even further ahead to visit Harry Potter in Diagon Alley next year, contact Heather at 1-800-796-6240 or via email at heather@destinationsinflorida.com today. And don't forget to tell her that you're repping the UUOP. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Excellent. We just want to thank you again, John Murdy, for being on the show, and to Universal for setting that up for us. That was a great interview, and we hope you all enjoyed it very much. Up next, we have a very special What's Newniversal Hollywood, in which Norm will give us a guided tour of the House of Horrors at Universal Studios Hollywood. Over to you, Norm.
Welcome to a very special edition of What's Newniversal from Universal Studios Hollywood. Today what we're going to do is take you through a very special walkthrough of a unique attraction only at Universal Studios Hollywood. It's called the Universal's House of Horrors. This is a walkthrough attraction that actually began way back in 1999 as a walkthrough interactive exhibit for the film Chicken Run. It evolved into The Mummy, then Van Helsing, and later on it became the House of Horrors. House of Horrors is a beautiful pet project from the brilliant haunt designer John Murdy, and it features all of the classic Universal monsters: Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, Phantom. What we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through, give you a play-by-play of everything that goes on in this attraction. So let's go. We're walking in now. First off, the rules are no touching, no carrying children. This might be too intense for people that are under the age of 13. No flash photography, no eating, drinking, or smoking. Okay, we've got all that together. Let's go ahead and go. When you enter the first room, this is basically just the inner queue before you get into the haunted walkthrough itself. We have figures like Phantom of the Opera. We have face molds from Alfred Hitchcock, Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff. This area is used as a rotating exhibit of all things Universal horror. So, we are ready to go. Walking through the turnstile now and entering the first tunnel, the Dracula section. What's so wonderful about this is the experience always changes. It's always different. The actors actually interact with you. They can't touch you, but they really try to get your goat. Walking past a mausoleum here, and onto a bridge where there are little beady red eyes, tons of rats. A figure holding a crucifix to my left. Alrighty. Now we're going to enter the catacombs. Oh, God damn it! Oh! Dracula got me. Dracula got me. I'm down in the catacombs. There's skulls embedded into the muddy walls here. Oh, man. It's so funny. I've been through this a million times. Every time the monsters get me. I love it. This is like the best. Okay, we're still in the catacombs. There's little strings hitting my face. Oh! Yep. Dracula got me again. What's fun is being able to see these actors interact with everyone, knowing that the scares are coming up. It's hysterical. Okay, we're still in the catacombs for Dracula set. One of my all-time favorite scares is coming up right now. And it's one of the brides of Dracula. Let's see if she comes out to get me. Oh, God damn it! I love that scare. I love that scare. Okay. Now we're headed upstairs. At the head of the stairs is a figure of Lon Chaney from the Phantom of the Opera. A little tripwire here on the floor sets off a lightning strike. And we see him at the top of the stairs right there. Okay, we're a little backed up here, so give us a minute. We're next heading into the mummy's tomb. The lights are low. Taking a sharp left. There's some mechanical mummies popping out from the walls. Oh, man. It's funny because there's mummies on both sides of it, and you don't know which one is real and which one is... Oh, God damn it. There we go. He got me. Next scene up is Chucky. Now, some may argue whether or not it's a monster, and frankly, I would argue that too. Not exactly sure why this guy's in here, aside from the fact that he was a Universal property that people knew. But it's... an abandoned, dilapidated toy warehouse. Rounding a corner here, we see... Oh, God, Chucky's gonna get me. Okay. So, now what we're doing is we're getting into the Frankenstein section. And what's really cool about this is the actual set from the classic Boris Karloff film. We're up on the second floor, so what we're doing now is going over a huge bridge overlooking the actual set from the original Frankenstein film. That's kind of a preview of what we're going to end up with later. We come in here, and now we're in the Psycho section. The smell of formaldehyde is thick in the air as we wander into the mirror maze. Oh, man. Another one of my favorite scares coming up here. This one's amazing because there's a shower curtain and Mom pops out. Oh, not there. You never know. That's the wonderful thing about this attraction is it always keeps you guessing. Always on your toes. The other people are pretty worked up here too. Part of the fun is watching everyone else's reaction. Oh, now what we're going through is the zombie section. There's body bags hanging from the ceiling. You have to navigate your way through as zombies bang on a window and try to get in. That's awesome. Okay. Here's a basic intermission of sorts when we're in the stairwell that leads to the first, back down to the first level. Clips from the Wolfman play up on a wall. We are wandering through a forest. Smell of pine evokes memories of the ETQ. Okay. We're in the werewolf scene now. Let's see what happens. Oh, God damn it! That was the werewolf. Okay, now we're in the crazy spinning tunnel. Okay, on a down ramp, we're headed into the floor space of the set for Frankenstein. Wandering through. Oh, here comes Igor. Hi, Igor. How's it going? Okay. These are all actual set pieces, still functioning, with lights, refitted with new lights and everything like that. Now we are wandering through a set of huge wooden, oh God, spiked, oh God, doors into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre set. Oh God. And oh! And we're out. That is one of my all-time favorite attractions here because aside from being a huge haunt fan, it stays here year-round. If I ever need my scare fix, it's there for me. So, that's it. The walkthrough from Universal Hollywood's House of Horrors.
Thank you very much for that, Norm. That was awesome. I'm going to have to make it over to Universal Studios Hollywood sometime soon to see that. That'll do it for this show. The next one will be out on the 5th of September. If you want to email the show, you can do it at podcast@uuopodcast.com. Send us your reactions to the Halloween Horror Nights news for the Dead Man's Digest, as well as any comments or questions you have about Universal or the Universal Parks in general. So until next time, it's good night, Internet, from me, and I'll see you all tomorrow. And just leave you with this here, since I gotta rush down I-4. Ask any racer, any real racer. It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
Well, that just about does it for another unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. We'd love for you to get in touch. So follow us all on Twitter at UUO Podcast, at UUOP Tracy, at UUOP Darren, and at UUOP Eric. Like our Facebook page at facebook.com/unofficial Universal Podcast. Follow us on Instagram by searching UUO Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/UUO Podcast. Don't miss a show by subscribing to us on iTunes, and while you're there, please leave us a review. Not an Apple user? No problem. Just find the show at uuopodcast.libsyn.com and subscribe to the feed while you're there. Send us your spews, funny schmits, live reports, and any other comments at podcast@uuopodcast.com. And come find us on the forums and say hello at our partner site, micechat.com. So thanks for listening, and until next time, remember, live the adventure.
This has been a MicePod.com presentation.
MiceChat.com